Writing. The word slipped out of my mouth as nothing more than a nervous joke, but the silence that followed felt heavier than every burden I had carried my entire life. I laughed softly and said that she was simply too good for someone like me. I expected her to smile politely, maybe even agree without saying it aloud. Instead, she looked into my eyes with a warmth that stopped time itself. Then she said the one sentence that changed my life forever. She told me that was exactly why she had chosen me. In that moment, every painful memory, every insecurity, and every lonely night suddenly seemed to lead to this single heartbeat. If stories about kindness, hope, and second chances mean something to you, we'd love to have you as part of our community. For as long as I could remember, I had believed I was the kind of person people eventually left behind. I grew up in a neighborhood where broken promises were more common than birthdays worth celebrating. My father worked until illness stole his strength, and my mother spent her life pretending everything was fine so her children could sleep peacefully at night. Watching them sacrifice everything taught me responsibility, but it also taught me to hide my feelings. I learned to smile even when I was falling apart because I never wanted anyone to worry about me. As the years passed, that habit became my identity. I became the man who quietly carried everyone's burdens while convincing himself he deserved nothing in return. By the time I reached my 30s, life had become a routine of work, exhaustion, and empty evenings. I repaired old machines in a manufacturing warehouse, earned just enough to survive, and returned every night to a tiny apartment where silence greeted me like an old friend. I watched people build families, celebrate anniversaries, and chase dreams while I convinced myself those things belonged to better people. Somewhere deep inside, I had accepted that love was something I could admire from a distance but never truly experience. Then she walked into my life without making the slightest effort to change it. Emma began volunteering at the same community center where I spent weekends fixing broken furniture for families who couldn't afford new ones. She wasn't loud or dramatic. She simply had a way of making people feel seen. Children ran toward her without hesitation. Elderly neighbors smiled when she remembered their names. Even people carrying invisible pain somehow found themselves opening their hearts around her. She never tried to impress anyone, yet everyone left her presence feeling a little lighter. We became friends almost by accident. It started with short conversations while painting classrooms and repairing donated bicycles. Then came coffee after volunteering, long walks through quiet streets, and hours spent talking about childhood memories, dreams, and fears. She listened without interrupting and never judged my past. Still, every time she smiled at me, I secretly wondered when she would realize she deserved someone far better. The closer we became, the louder my insecurities grew. I noticed everything I lacked. I didn't own a beautiful house. I didn't wear expensive clothes. I had no remarkable career or exciting adventures to talk about. All I had was a tired heart that still wanted to believe goodness existed despite everything life had taught it. I couldn't understand why someone like her would ever choose someone like me. One rainy evening after finishing another volunteer event, we stood outside watching the streets disappear beneath the falling rain. She spoke about the future with quiet confidence, and panic suddenly filled my chest. Instead of admitting how afraid I was, I laughed and made the joke that had been living inside my heart for months. I told her she was simply too good for me. She didn't laugh. She looked at me with eyes full of compassion and answered that she knew exactly who I was, and that was the reason she had chosen me. She explained that kindness mattered more than money, loyalty mattered more than status, and character mattered more than perfection. She had watched me stay late every weekend to help strangers without expecting recognition. She had seen me quietly buy groceries for an elderly man who couldn't afford them. She had noticed that I treated every person with respect, whether they could repay me or not. Those were the things she loved, even if I couldn't see them myself. Her words stayed with me long after that night ended. For the first time in years, I looked in the mirror and wondered if I had spent my entire life measuring my worth with the wrong standards. Maybe success wasn't only about wealth. Maybe being a good person truly mattered. Life, however, wasn't finished testing us. Only 3 months later, the factory where I had worked for nearly 15 years closed its doors. Hundreds of employees lost their jobs overnight, including me. The paycheck that kept my small world together disappeared in a single afternoon. Bills piled up, interviews led nowhere, and every rejection letter convinced me that my worst fears had been right all along. I began avoiding friends because I felt embarrassed. I stopped smiling because pretending required energy I no longer had. Emma refused to let hopelessness become my future. Every morning she reminded me that losing a job didn't mean losing my value. She helped me rewrite my resume, encouraged me to apply for positions I believed were impossible, and patiently listened whenever fear convinced me to quit trying. She never solved my problems for me, but she stood beside me while I faced them, and somehow that made all the difference. One afternoon, while volunteering despite my unemployment, I repaired a broken wheelchair for an elderly gentleman who couldn't afford professional repairs. He asked why someone with my skills wasn't running a repair business of his own. I laughed because the idea sounded impossible. But he believed in me enough to recommend me to several local businesses. One opportunity became another. Small repair jobs slowly turned into regular customers. Within 2 years, what had begun in a rented garage grew into a respected repair workshop known not only for honest work but also for treating every customer with dignity. Success changed my circumstances, but it didn't change my heart. Together, Emma and I decided our workshop would always hire people who needed second chances. Former inmates, struggling single parents, and workers overlooked because of age or disability found opportunities where others had closed doors. Every paycheck we handed out reminded me of the day someone had believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Sometimes, during quiet evenings after work, I still remembered that rainy night outside the community center. I realized my life hadn't changed because I suddenly became extraordinary. It changed because one extraordinary person refused to let me see myself as worthless. Her faith became the light that guided me through the darkest season of my life. If this story touched your heart, thank you for staying until the end and for supporting stories that remind us kindness still exists in this world. Before this story ends, please share in the comments, has someone ever believed in you when you had stopped believing in yourself? Your story may become the hope another person needs today. Looking back now, I finally understand that true love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who sees your scars without fearing them, someone who recognizes the goodness hidden beneath your doubts, and someone who chooses to stay even when life becomes difficult. The joke I made came from years of insecurity, but her answer became the beginning of a completely different life. Every morning I wake up grateful that she saw something valuable in me long before I could see it myself. And every day since then, I have tried to become the man she believed I already was. Sometimes, the greatest miracle isn't finding the right person. It's meeting someone who teaches you that you were worthy of love all along. Did you like this feature?